get going. Go ahead and get started. And I call this video conference meeting of the Bryan Independent School District to order. Let the record show that a quorum of board members are present via video conference or telephone, that this meeting has been duly called and that notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. This meeting is being conducted via video conference pursuant to Governor Abbott's temporary suspension of open meeting laws issued on March 16, 2020 in response to the COVID-19 pandemic. The meeting will be audible to the board and public and allow for two-way communication for the board and district administration. The public has been provided both telephonic and video conference access to this meeting. Okay. And as we've been doing, I can see pretty much everybody, but I just want to make sure, so if y'all can check in on audio, Dr. Harlan.
Here.
Ms. Benford.
Here.
Dr. Whitbeck.
Here.
Yeah. Mr. Stasny.
Here.
Dr. Warnerberger.
Here.
Ms. Waller.
Here.
Ms. Dwayne.
Here.
All right, great. So we're going to try this next slide to see if the dogs are in the background. I apologize. If y'all hear the pledges of allegiance, we'll go there and hopefully the video will play appropriately.
Oh, that's pretty.
All right. So we'll officially get going. In accordance with Governor Abbott's temporary suspension of open meetings laws issued on March 16th, 2020, the board will allow public comment, citizen participation to be made in an alternative format. The alternative format required that those wishing to address the board on either an item on the agenda or a non-agenda topic must have sent a comment via email to BISD_digitalmeeting@bryanisd.org 10 minutes prior to the beginning of this meeting. At that time, we did not have any requests, so we'll go ahead and move into the spotlight. And first up is our elementary teacher of the month, Ms. Elizabeth Savage. And Dr. Whitbeck, I don't know if y'all want me to read the article here or if we're gonna have somebody else that is presenting.
I did think that someone was planning to read it, so.
Okay.
Let me see who responds here.
Mandy Wells will be available to read.
Sorry, okay. So there is no question that servant leadership begins with a servant's heart, a desire to serve or help others. The heart of Elizabeth Savage is that of service to others first. If Elizabeth sees that there is a need, whether it be that of a teacher, student, or the campus, she is proactive in seeking solutions and takes initiative with the development and implementation of the solution. Elizabeth is a leader among her peers. Her opinion is valued and her peers often look to her for guidance and advice. As a first grade teacher, she has worked both diligently and creatively to be the best teacher possible. She is always willing to explore new strategies to help her students be successful. She is a great proponent and advocate for assessing data to make the proper decisions for each student and their learning. She uses these decisions to make appropriate changes in instruction so that each child is successful. During this time of distance learning, Elizabeth has taken initiative in creating a message for our students from all of our teachers, creating how-to videos for her peers and parents, coaching and providing support to her peers. She's been proactive in seeking solutions to issues and has been creative in developing ways for us to communicate and have virtual events with our families. For the past 2 years, she's been a vital part of our school's PBIS leadership team. She has been a strong force in the guidance this team has given to our school to make teaching, learning, and interventions more meaningful. Elizabeth leads by example and builds relationships with staffs and students that are positive and encouraging. As she interacts with teachers and identifies needs, she helps in building structures and systems that support the need while honoring collegiality and collaboration. She is a hardworking person who consistently exceeds the level of performance required. It's an honor to recognize Elizabeth Savage as Houston's Teacher of the Month.
Good job.
Good job. Thank you.
Thank you.
Virtual applause, yes.
All right. And next up is our Secondary Teacher of the Month. And that is Ruth Whitley from
That's a-
Travis B. Bryan High School.
Is she new? She's new, isn't she?
Whiteley.
Whiteley. And do we have somebody to read hers or? Whiteley?
Yes. Mr. Boobin should be coming on.
Okay.
I think Mr. Boobin is having problems logging on.
Okay, well, I have it here. I can go ahead and start reading, and if he jumps in, just let me know. During this time of uncertainty and unknowns, Ruth Whiteley has stepped up and led her department through developing online lessons, as well as helped lead the campus in terms of how she cares for students. Even though Google Hangout meetings weren't something that we were already doing, she was one of the first ones who learned how to make this happen and organized an online meeting for her department and helped others do the same. This was also true with online lessons. However, she was the first to make sure we all gave our kids time to get used to the new way of learning and completing assignments. You see, Ruth Whiteley has always had a huge heart for kids and has always given grace where grace was needed, not only with kids, but with colleagues as well. She has taken countless students and led them to success and has mentored and grown countless young teachers and led them to success as well. She is a model for old teachers never stop learning and doing, and that was in quotes. This past school year, she filled a void in our girls basketball program by volunteering to take on the freshman girls basketball team. Although she hasn't coached in many years, she came back, showed these freshman girls how to be leaders both on and off the court, and led this team to a 22-1 record. During this time of uncertainty and unknowns, Mrs. Whiteley has been a steady leader and is still caring and loving her students, leading them to success, even if it's online. So congratulations and to our Teachers of the Month.
Yay.
Great.
Whiteley.
All right. And with that, we'll move on down into the standing committee updates with the superintendent update.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you again for your service to our kids during this unprecedented time. During my report, I thought I would just mention a few highlights. You have an in-depth report coming a little bit later from Dr. Ibarra on where we are instructionally, and from our Director of Food Services, Cindy Freire, who will also be giving you an update on all of the meals and everything that's been happening in that area. But since the governor's decision midday Friday, we've sent out 3 communications to our parents, our students, and our community, and 1 specific communication to our seniors, just in terms of now sharing that information and what all it would entail. But since we've been closed since the week after spring break, we have distributed 5,000 Chromebooks to put in the hands of children to assure equity. And we have about 1,000 on standby ready to be distributed. So that's an ongoing process daily. Additionally, we have now 91.5% of the students engaged in Schoology. Now, that doesn't mean that they've all completed all the assignments, and Dr. Ibarra will elaborate, but 91.5% engaged of all ages, pre-K through 12th. That's very, very strong for over the last 2 weeks of the closure. I also want to mention that and thank Ginger Carabine for organizing an amazing, massive distribution of food bank backpack program, which we have some students who engage in that weekly. They receive a backpack with food on Fridays. And so all of those families were contacted, and there was a team that was coordinated by Ms. Carabine. We had teachers, we had nurses, principals, we had faith-based leaders, communications department, maintenance, a lot of people coming together. 6,050 bags of food were given out just this last Friday in Bryan ISD. So I'm very proud of that. As we talk about continued instruction, I wanted to mention to you that we also think about children with special needs. And as of today, Bryan ISD has engaged parents in 275 ARD meetings, planning and discussing instructional programming for special needs children. So that's just since spring break. So a lot of that's being done like this is, but it is that communication with the family to determine how to best meet the needs of the child. Our team is very busy right now in thinking about what's ahead. Now that we are closed for the remainder of the year in terms of the brick and mortar, we are not closed for online instruction. So we have a lot of that. While that's going on, we're also trying to work on staffing, work on planning for next year, looking at graduation. As you know, we have Memorial Day that weekend still planned for Merrill Green, and we have an alternate for the very end of June. But the details and making something of that nature happen when that's not our usual procedure. We also are working closely with our seniors. Today was a very special day. We distributed yard signs to hundreds of students in 4 high schools, and it was very uplifting. So case in point, at Rudder, we had the assistant principals and counselors all out there, and we had kids driving up and lots of cheering and bubbles being blown and horns and decorated tailgates from the counselors. Really, really excited. But each of the 4 schools, it was a really, really positive experience, and hopefully you'll see those yard signs around our community. But we have prom and we have scholarship night. Things of that nature are not even as easy in some ways as graduation to plan, because we have to be free from the distancing requirements. So our team is looking at all of that. We are also working on summer school, as well as looking closely at the calendar to see if in the future we would need to bring back to you any changes to that calendar. So just want you to know that the troops are busy, but they are amazing, and very grateful for the continuity that we've been able to provide instructionally, for the thinking out of the box, and for a lot of just commitment to making sure that we are making learning accessible to all children. I know that's one of your goals, and I think you would be proud of the team and the work that they've been doing. So that's my report for tonight.
Thank you so much and I know the seniors and their parents know how much our administration is working to make them, to honor them, you know, and give them the respect they deserve. And thank y'all so much. I almost wish I had a senior this year to get to go through that and be involved. And there'll always be that special class,
Yes, 2020, we will never forget.
Dr. Whitbeck, is there anything at all that's being discussed at the state level with regard to possibly doing something during the summer before the regular fall, before next year's regular calendar starts? I doubt, but I just thought if you heard anything, you might want to know about it.
I do not think that there is anything specific that they are mandating. Certainly, we have local control on those decisions. So I think, you know, for example, just regular summer school, again, until we're lifted from you know, some of the restrictions, it's hard to be definitive on that planning. But I do know that our team is thinking through scenarios and what that might look like, because we know that there's going to be gaps in learning, and we know we've got to get kids in, whether that's for a normal summer school, is some of that online, is it modified, is it more of a boot camp, like week long, you know, stronger doses of math and reading and things like that. So I think we're in those formative stages as a team looking at it, but the state at this moment is not mandating anything of that nature.
I wasn't so much, I guess, thinking in terms of mandating, but making that something that everyone would want to do if there was a way to, I guess, do some catching up. I realized that it would put some additional burdens on everybody, but I've had this question asked by some people and some of our parents, and they wonder, well, why aren't we going to use the summer if possible to make up for what basically has been some lost time? I know I'm certainly hoping, and I know that we are all hoping that it's been an effective online learning experience, but I'm sure there's been some losses, and so especially with some of our kids, and so that was really what the question was about, was whether the state has in any way been formulating some kind of plan to fund and allow and maybe mandate, I don't know, something during the summer. I mean, it would be very interesting and a challenge. I know all that, and I'm not suggesting it's even necessarily a great idea, but I was just wondering if you'd heard anything. So it sounds like the answer is no. So.
Well, right now the message to us is, as we incur expenses, we are to document very carefully those expenses that might be due to the COVID-19. And so anything that we would do to provide additional instruction certainly could be added to a reimbursable expense. I think some of that's coming federally, maybe some at the state, but we are being told to carefully document. So I think thinking that way is the way to go, and that we will probably have some options like that. But again, once we're free and able to actually get back in school and not have the social distancing, that would be prohibitive.
Well, and I would imagine it may be almost as likely that the social distancing mandates continue past the end of the year. You may have to be dealing with that.
That's the biggest piece right there that would allow us to, you know, be kind of back in that classroom type setting, even with smaller groups. It doesn't really lend itself very well. It's not that it's impossible, but we would just have to kind of think out of the box. But we're looking at all of those options, as well as modifying the calendar.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And we will move into the discussion and action, starting with the consent agenda.
I move approval of all the items listed on the consent agenda.
Second.
I have a motion by Dr. Harland, a second by Mrs. Waller. All in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. And we'll go ahead and continue into the regular agenda, starting with business services. Consideration and possible action to select the delivery method providing the best value for the SECO Lone Star project.
Paul, do you want to go ahead and start?
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. I didn't know if you were going to start it or me, Harry.
Go ahead.
So if y'all remember, this type of project, major energy efficiency, was first brought up while Amy was still here. And when Amy was still here, we explored many different options with different methods of getting funding, whether through loan, there were any grants or anything for this project, and we ultimately landed on the SECO, the State Energy Conservation Office Lone Star, which is a 2% loan for energy efficiency projects, and that the state will have to, they approve it. And right now we're in the stage where, if you remember a few months ago, I came to y'all for approval on the investment grade energy audit. That's been completed. All of our paperwork has been sent to the state, and their third party review has happened, and they've approved the project. I know the third party engineer and the State Energy Conservation Office are very excited about this project, and they're looking forward to working with us on it. And it will consist of LED lighting, both interior and exterior, optimizing our energy management control systems, power quality improvements, and ventilation reduction. And most of those projects we will touch through this every campus and every building that Bryan ISD that has right now. So, and then utilizing the design build method for this, it gives us a little more control. It allows a quicker project. For this type of project with the loan, it is it's more cost effective this way. These companies have a better relationship with vendors, especially on the lighting aspect of things, which was the majority of our costs on this project, which is it's around $6.4 million total. Majority of it is on the LED lighting portion, and this method allows that contractor they have more buying power, so we're able to get materials quite a bit cheaper, because this is all these companies do are these design build methods, and most of them really only do it for majority of the SECO loan processes. Harry, do you want me to add anything else, or?
No, I mean, and basically the reason we're here, we have to get, the board has to approve us using this method. Competitive seal proposals is a method we use for construction that's valued at $50,000 or more. But that being said, if we desire to use another method, which the administration is recommending, the board has to find that for this, if the superintendent or designee recommends, as we're doing now, the board has to take action to consider, determine, and approve this other method as the best value prior to us going ahead and advertising and utilizing the design build method. So Paul and I can answer any other questions that y'all have.
Well, a while back, and it's been a good while back, there was a long discussion, or a lot of discussion, I guess, about these different methods and how they're differentiated. Maybe it really doesn't need to be lengthy, but maybe about a 1 or 2 minute, well, 2 minute, make it 2 minute presentation or description of how this differs from what we're mostly used to, which is we just send it out to bid and go with the low bidder.
This method, what typically we do, we bring in architect, engineer, we work through a design process, we bid it out to a general contractor, and then the general contractor hires subcontractors, and the architect or engineer has consultants they bring in for this project. Whereas design build, it is designed and built through the same entity. So there is more interaction from start to beginning, and it allows for just a smoother turnkey project that, and from what I've seen, it also reduces the time on the project, as well as it's shown to reduce costs. I don't know, I wouldn't say this is a method we want to use for a new school or anything, but for this type of project with the Lone Star and their requirements, this, in my opinion, is the better option for this project for procurement.
And just in terms of procurement process, it's a two-step process. Mr. Stasny, you know, the first step is you go out for requests for qualifications and requests for proposals. Proposals. You select usually up to five folks. Then the final, and then step two, the finalists come in and submit their full proposals. So that's basically kind of a little different than the competitive bidding process. It's a two-step process here. And so first you get an RFQ, and then after you get the RFQ, that's when you go after you've narrowed the field in terms of qualifications, then you move on to their number of proposals.
So I have a question, and forgive me, it's been a long Monday and I may have missed this. So what you're asking is that we use this design build method of procurement, which is different than what we normally do, on this specific project, the SECO Lone Star project, correct?
Yes, ma'am. And the only reason we have to is because under policy, we've designated competitive sealed proposals is usually what we use, but because if we want to use another, we have to get permission from the board to do that.
So then my follow-up question is, and maybe we've already approved the SECO Lone Star project, and I just don't remember what that project, but what is that project?
That is it's a district-wide energy efficiency project, which it will have the 4 items I mentioned a little bit earlier, with replacing lighting, interior and exterior, the power quality, the control systems, optimizing those. And through ASHRAE, we can reduce the amount of outside air that we pull into a building with different technologies. And we're doing that. And all of this, it's a $6.8 million or 6.4, let's see, 621. $6.4 million project, and it has a less than 10-year payback.
Right. So that's all sounding familiar to me. So now I get it. I'm sorry I was confused, but
No, not a problem. It's been a long process with this Lone Star one that we've been wading through.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say, Julie. It's been a long. We've been talking about this for a long time, but one of the distinct advantages for Mrs. Dwayne is that at least one of the advantages that stuck with me is that it brings up the interior quality, the learning environment quality to current light standards and LED. So yes, we get the energy savings, but at the same time, we're getting the bright lights into the classrooms that need it all at the same time, rather than one school at a time.
And I know we've done projects similar to this. I was just confused on what you were asking for. You're not asking us to approve the project. You're asking us to approve the design build method for procurement of this project.
Correct.
I move that the board select the design build method of procurement of construction services as providing the best value for the SECO Lone Star project, and authorize the superintendent or her designee to take all action for the procurement of such services pursuant to statute and board policy, and propose any advisory ranking for the board's consideration and possible action.
Second.
You have a motion by Dr. Harland, a second by Dr. Warnerberger. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And motion carries. And we will stay with business services and move down into the quarterly investment report for the quarter ending February 29th, 2020.
Yes, sir. Well, tonight we're bringing forward the quarterly investment report, as you mentioned, for the quarter that ended in February of 2020. And this covers all of our funds other than what's held in our depository bank for our day-to-day operations. So these would be funds that are they're used and they're collected and then probably held for somewhere more than a day. Generally, our policy is less than 2 years on any of our investments. At a time like this, when the financial markets are a little bit crazy and things are moving around and it's difficult to guess where things may end up and what we do. Our main, of course, goal is always to preserve our principal and maintain our liquidity with those items. And all of these investments, of course, will fall under the Texas Public Funds Investment Act. They'll be qualified investments for that. The long-term interest rates continue to trend down or have very low. I don't know if they can trend down much more. Short-term interest rates are trending slightly down, but they're holding a little bit better. So you'll see on the very first page of our report that a majority of the funds are held in the investment pools. The main one that we use, of course, for this is Tex Pool, which is a government holding place with over 2,500 individual public entities invested in this, with as of December 31, about a little over $23 billion that they're holding, and so we feel that that's a very safe place for us to be. Is they basically invest in conservative U.S. and government securities. They're AAA rated by Standard & Poor's. Received basically the highest rating that any pool of this nature could have. I would note across the top of the very first page the investment in pools. You can see at the February 29th, 2020, the investment in our pools was about roughly $84 million, which is probably the largest number that we would be holding at any one time, is in that end of January, first part of February, as we have received probably about 90% of our property tax revenue and a pretty good portion of our state funding. So that would be a large number. And then as we continue on through the year, of course, that will be used and transferred to our depository bank for use. If you go across further on there, the current earnings column, we can show that from the pool investments, we earned about $351,000. Follow that column all the way down for the total holdings for the quarter. We earned about almost $385,000. So that's still substantial. We're happy with that. We continue to watch the trends and see as they go. We did have some investments that were held in Frost, our safekeeping, Federal Farm Credit Bank. We had a couple of other ones that are those agency notes. And of course, with interest rates long-term falling, those all had a callable feature. They could be called by the agency, and so they would have called all of those that we had. We had invested over the last quarter roughly about $6 million in those, and they were called, and so they rolled back into our pool, which for the quarter ended is averaged just about 1.6% on the yield. And so we will continue to monitor and proceed with that as we go through to finish out the end of the year. Continue to look for long-term, a little longer term opportunity if some exists or some surfaces, and otherwise we'll stay safe and secure in the pools as we are at this point.
I move approval of the quarterly investment report for the quarter ended February 29th, 2020 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion by Ms. Waller, a second by Mrs. Dwayne. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I ask a question before we go on? I'm just curious what, market trends, how much market trends have an effect on that investment gain or loss? How much at risk for loss are we on those?
I mean, basically in the pools, we're at zero. I mean, it's for principal, any kind of principal loss. I mean, that's guaranteed 100%. The risk that we would have would be interest risk, which, we recognize it as it's received. So, I mean, we wouldn't lose anything that we have already booked or anything. But with interest rates trending down, yes, I'll be working on a quarterly financial update for you as we've gotten closer to.
So none of this is invested in anything other than interest-bearing accounts.
Correct. Well,
okay.
The pools, of course, they do invest in some government securities, some of AAA rated money market mutual funds. But they're all very liquid and they're all AAA rated, very secure investments. So you can never say 0% risk of loss, but they're very, very low risk of investment loss. So
yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. And with that, we'll move into item 3. I did not update the item 3 description, but that is food services, I believe. The food services update.
Good evening. This is Cindy. I did a brief timeline of events. I wasn't for sure if everyone got a copy of that. It was in the packet, and it just about where we have been over the 6 weeks. When we started March 16th, and we were doing the 5 hot meals per day, and it talks about our numbers that week were 11,801. And for the first 3 weeks, we did hot meals at the curb, and then April 13th, we transitioned to doing bulk meal distribution so that we would have less contact with the public. And so we're still distributing 10 meals, but we're doing it on Mondays and Thursdays. And so basically today, every child got a hot meal. It was chicken nuggets, mashed potatoes, green beans, toast, milk, fruit. And then they got to take home 2 meals. One's a pizza, one's a burrito that you reheat at home. And we give instructions on how to reheat your food and how to hold it. And then you also get a bag that has 3 breakfasts for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And on Thursday, we'll distribute meals again, and it'll be a hamburger on Thursday as your hot meal. And then you get a bag with your cold lunch for the next day, and then your breakfast for Friday and Monday. So that's where we are. Last week, we did 18,110 meals, and today we distributed 10,416.
Amazing.
Other things that we have done I think we learn as we go, and so then we make some adjustments. We have really tried to be safe with, first we started handing meals into the car windows, but then as you would notice, there would be contact with people inside the car. So then by, I think 4, we put tables and cones and signage at each site so that parents were instructed to get out of the car. We had staff putting hot meals and then the cold meal packages on the table. Then they could step back, then parents could get out of the car and gather their meals and get back in. That was a little slow. So then we learned, we need to put out multiple tables that are more than 6 feet or at least 6 feet apart so that 2 or 3 cars could be exiting at the same time to pick up their meals and get back into their car. Let's see.
Sandy,
Yes.
Sunday, okay, a combination.
That's fine, somewhere in between.
Yes, we haven't had any we haven't had any ill effects of any of our workers, have we?
No, they've been good. Like that's one of our goals is to keep everyone safe. And so let's see, in week 4, we also, the school nurses come in and take the temperatures of our staff along with the volunteers. And now all of our staff working in the kitchens are wearing masks, which because we're not able to social distance in the cafeteria. We have 7 employees working in every kitchen, but it's almost impossible to be 6 feet away from each other in the kitchen. So they are wearing masks and we are doing temperatures. And I mean, right now, people are wanting to work to the point that we require. I never wanted to get to the point that I had to make someone come in and work that they didn't feel safe.
Well, thank you for all you're doing. And you've been in this business a long, long time. And so if anybody could figure out a way to make all this happen, you could sure do it. So thank you.
Cindy, I just wanted to, thank you for keeping up with the data and for sharing it with us, because I think there's a lot of people in the general public that don't realize how much food insecurity we have and how much we are meeting needs. So having the data to share with the public in that we are providing for so many people for so many meals, I think is really very important. So thank you very much for what you're doing.
Yes.
You're welcome. And I will also say that the government in their programs have really stepped up. I know starting in April, the SNAP benefits, which is also known as food stamps, they're waiving a lot of their rules so that families can easily have access to those. So before it was like a 30-page application, and then you would have to get verification from your employers, and it took over 2 hours to apply. Now they're waiving the paycheck stubs, your work, your interviews, so people can easily access benefits through online. And then I know that benefits in March alone, and this is before all the rules were waived. Last March, we had 114,000 across the state of Texas applying, getting food stamps. And this March alone, it's up to 230,000. So people are taking, stimulus checks are coming in. So I think people are getting help, but they're taking, we are providing a lot of meals too, but there are other avenues. And I know the food bank, we've been in contact with them. We've gotten emergency food boxes, and we've also been able to, get people the help they need, refer them to food pantries and different things like that.
Well, we love you and your staff, and please let them know that, they're the frontline people and how much we appreciate them and want them to take care of each other and thank them for all they're doing.
Thank you.
Absolutely, and thank you for all that you do and your department does. All right, and at this time, and thank you for the update. This time we're going to turn it over to Dr. Ibarro. I'm going to stop my screen share. They can start.
Hi, good evening. First agenda item before you this evening is a discussion about reading academies. I just want to kind of walk back and go down memory lane with the reading academies. That developed out of House Bill 3 from the last legislative session. And as you recall, we came to the board right around the time you adopted the coming year school calendar and discussed the training requirements and what that would look like for teachers in grades K through 4. As a district, we're going to do K through 4. And it's going to be 10 days, a minimum of about 80 hours through a blended model of PD. And it's going to be over the course of 1 calendar year. And at that time, we were poised to move forward. Dr. Whitbeck has been on multiple calls with the Commissioner of Education, and everything is still proceeding with the reading academies across the state. They are continuing, they're forging on. Right now, they are accepting applications for teachers to apply, to go through the process to be able to be a cohort facilitator. And so, as you recall, the model our district was recommending and moving forward with was we would have an authorized provider, which would be our region service center. And then we would have 2 staff members that were cohort facilitators, and they would each handle half of the teachers. Those people who need to be cohort facilitators have to be approved by TEA in order to do so. And so they have to go through an online testing process and then an online screen and interview process through an outside agency that TEA has hired. So that process actually began March 9th. And we have some of our own staff members going through it just so we could go to the training and understand what it would look like. Right now, the training is set to be in May. And of course, they've had to change it. And now it's going to be in May, but online and at a distance for the materials that they're still developing. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, in May, during the school day?
In May and in June, yes, ma'am. The facilitator.
So what about the teachers teaching?
So if you want to be a cohort facilitator, you can come in June instead. They have several weeks that you could do it, but it's all going to be online. So there are June dates for them. That's what they currently have scheduled. So the reason we're here tonight is to go back to what Dr. Whitbeck had talked about with the coming year and Mr. Stasny's comment too, that knowing the situation we're currently in and knowing the needs of our students moving forward, we feel like we need as much flexibility in that coming year as possible to prioritize the most important things. The most important thing right now is to make sure our kids are academically stable moving forward and making sure we have adequate time in the calendar to provide that support to students. So we would like to let you know that we're not going to be continuing with the first year of the Reading Academy implementation. They have 3 years slated for this process right now. They may make it longer. We're not sure right now. But right now we have 3 years where we can complete this TEA request or mandate from the legislature. And so we are going to take a pause for 1 year and then pick it up in the second year, which I think will actually be good given how unusually it's being rolled out right now under unusual circumstances. It'll also give time for the Region Service Center to really bolster the resources they need to be able to fully support the cohort facilitators and all of the other districts who will be getting this process. So we're going to be bringing back to you a plan for how we will support those students in the coming year, as Dr. Whitbeck mentioned, but wanted to let you know that we're taking that layer off right now and prioritizing the time for students. Are there any questions?
I want to say thank you for using good judgment there. I'm very surprised that TEA is trying to pull that off, business as usual. So probably good just to wait.
Yes, I think that's in our best interest. Thank you.
So did the commissioner give Dr. Whitbeck, did the commissioner give you reasons why it was going to stay in place? Oh, well.
There for a while, we've had daily conversations with the commissioner, which went to 3 times a week, and now we're doing 2 times a week. So prior to the governor's announcement of the brick and mortar closure for the remainder of the year last Friday, there were several things on a list that were told to the superintendents that would be maintaining. And Reading Academies was one of it. Now, when we meet with him tomorrow, it's possible that would change. But our team, in really carefully analyzing it, knowing that we have 3 years, we prepared. We were ready to start, have phase 1, phase 2. We were ready. But is that really the best use of our time right now and our teachers when we think, just like Mr. Stasny said, that those contract days that are going to be very precious to us are going to be better served to serve kids? And one of the unique things about Bryan ISD that Dr. Ibarra didn't say, because she's probably not going to brag on her own team, but we have a strong instructional support team. We have instructional coaches, about 70 of them. We've got strong curriculum, so we're in a good position for that. Excuse me. So anyway, I feel like, when you look at all the data, I think we just push this a little further down the road is the smart thing for Bryan ISD.
I agree.
And Dr. Whitbeck's right. We absolutely have the support structures in place already to be able to facilitate whatever our students and our teachers need to make sure that we're providing the best reading instruction possible for our students. So we feel good about that, and we'll certainly embrace it when the time comes to move forward with the training. But just again, prioritizing the need for the right time. The whole team was in agreement and wanted to just take a pause on it for right now. All right, I think I have the next agenda item as well. Right, Mr. McCall?
Yes.
Okay, let me, one moment.
And next agenda item is just the at-home instructional plan for learning update. It's all on the same page.
Yeah, I'm loading it. It'll be just 1 second. Okay, you should be able to see a presentation now. Is that correct? Excellent.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, so this evening, Julie Johnson's going to be my partner for this presentation, and we're going to do it together. So much of it involves the teamwork that you're seeing across the district, but in particular with the technology services team. So just briefly, we're going to give you a quick overview. We're going to talk about technology distribution and connectivity. We'll get into Schoology, and we'll kind of give you some information on engagement to date through Schoology and through online learning right now in Bryan ISD. This document is posted on our website, and we continue to make revisions to it, and we'll be posting a new version of it in the coming week or two that has additional information, but it covers everything about what we're doing for our instructional plan for at-home learning, from what expectations are for staff members to students, resources. Everything you want to know is in this document. But a lot of it, we're going to continue to update it, but a lot of it's already there. So if anyone has questions, this is a great resource for them. We're going to begin, though, with the thing you have to do online learning, and that's the technology, connectivity, and resources. So I'm going to turn it over to Julie.
All right. I'm gonna let you click through, Barbara. There you go. So the first thing we had to tackle is find out who needed technology, so assessing the need. So we looked first at our inventory to determine how many Chromebooks could we pull that are viable, usable for our students at home, and then how many unique households are in the district. And so at the time, they were pretty dang close. And so you can see about 8,900 or 9,000 unique households and 9,000 Chromebooks that we could get our hands on. So the survey of households went out almost immediately. So we started asking parents, do you have internet access at your house? And do you have a computer at home that has internet access? So as we first started to kind of distribute these laptops out, we also wanted to look at, number of kids, what their grade levels were. Our primary concern was 3 through 12. And so when you look at those unique households, that's kind of who we were targeting. But eventually we saw as the results were coming in that we were able to make sure we were providing EE through 12. What was really critical in that survey data, we're asking 2 questions. We're asking for a little bit of data about who you are and who your child is and where do y'all live. So we had to take that data and compare it against our student information system just to make sure that who we're giving it to really is the person who says they live there, and just kind of validating that information. You can click on. So, and then another challenge we knew that everyone across the United States was going to face was the internet access. So as the need became greater and greater, access to what we wanted was going to be a struggle. However, what was really nice is we already had access points we could utilize almost immediately. So our networking team went out and relocated our access points so that signal, instead of just being pushed around the internal side of the building, we were directing it outside of the campus. We've also contracted with one of our local vendors to add additional drops to our sites so that we could put the kind of access points you see at stadiums at the edges of the building so we could actually push that signal a little bit farther. Then we also looked at sharing information about our internet service providers locally that are willing to help. We've had several people, many people take advantage of the 60 days free promotion, and they're still doing so with Suddenlink. And then we're also reaching out to the city to look at possible additional sites that maybe they have fiber available and we can help get connected to other locations. And that's an ongoing process that we started really in depth with mapping last week. What's nice though is a note here, all district internet. So if you're on our Wi-Fi, it is always filtered for kids. Well, for anyone actually accessing it. And then safely distributing technology. Now I know probably many of y'all have seen the articles in the news about people getting sick by either distributing or someone working the distribution was getting sick. So we tried to take this, we're very germ conscious anyway. Being in technology, you're going to be touching things other people are already touching. And so, and no telling what's happened to it. And so we are very careful about when we bring things in, getting them good and clean. And so Chromebooks, we treated them the same way. So as we collected them from classrooms, they were cleaned, checked, and prepared, made ready for distribution. Help desk staff identified, we decided who could we pull, who knows how to reset passwords, how to get them the equipment they need, fill out surveys for the parents if needed, and just be available to us during this time. We provided them some equipment, trained them on how to work from home so it looks like they're actually working in district and answering the help desk number. And then we made sure there was plenty of personal protection equipment. Thanks to our team with Sunday, they already had plenty on hand of sanitizing wipes, masks, gloves, and so we were ready and prepared. Volunteers were contacted and sites were prepared. Many kudos to our campuses who jumped in. Teachers were very willing to help. We made sure that they had that personal protection equipment so that they could get those out safely. You may have noticed that here is a cute example of us deploying is how we marked on the walls where they're to stand, each person in line to make sure that they were maintaining that 6-foot distance. And then they would get to go inside the vestibule. And at that time, they would, between every person, they would spray it down with Lysol. I monitored one day and saw them wiping down the pen that they used. So they were very meticulous in the cleaning. It did probably make the line a little bit longer to wait in, but I think it goes to show that we were trying to keep safety first. So on Monday, March 23rd, we sent out calls to 1,669 Bryan ISD households saying that they could come pick up their Chromebook. And what was great about using the Chromebooks, and I may have said this at a previous meeting, but Chromebooks, because we're sending them through our network, they are filtered while on the internet. So we didn't have to worry about that being a barricade for getting these out to students quickly. So we're continuing to support and deploy right now. As of right now, we have 5,742 Chromebooks. It's actually a little more because this was from Friday when we finished our presentation. So it is actually a few hundred more. So we have those assigned to students. And we have about 5,000 that have actually been distributed and about 1,000 that are waiting to be picked up. We do a pull of that survey data every day. It is getting slower, so we feel like we're starting to reach everyone. And so that's why that number seems so high. It's because we keep taking in more. Our help desk, great staff. We're using our computer technicians, our systems analysts, and our help desk staff who do this normally. They are answering the phones between 8:30 and 4:30, taking care of replies to emails or voicemails at 8 to 5. And then they're scheduling on-site appointments for repairs. You know, we can't have people just come in and have too many people in the office. But we have techs on site who can take care of you, whether it's a child that needs a keyboard repaired or a staff member that for some reason they can't get connected. And then we're distributing daily between 12 and 4:30. We found that was really our high traffic time. And so we've kind of made appointments in the morning. They really run all day, but we try to start with the morning, giving them time to work those. And then we stay, even though it says 4:30, if there's a line, they stay. And they've been known to stay till 6:30 or 7 to make sure everyone who waited in line got taken care of. What's nice is we haven't seen those long lines lately. So networking, we're continuing to improve our Wi-Fi access. So we continue to add access points at our campuses. And as I mentioned, we're working on a partnership with the city to see what else can be added. And I think that's it for me, Barbara.
Well, while you're on that point, can you tell us what the incremental cost of one additional access point is?
I'm trying to see if I can remember off the top of my head. So the access point itself is just with licensing and everything is around $2,000, and the drop is about $200. So about $2,200. And so we're doing those large ones, so we're not putting a lot, but we're putting enough to distribute around the campus.
So I was just wondering, you know, if we, you know, thinking ahead, wanted to densify the access to those.
Absolutely.
Incremental cost would be. Thank you.
Yes.
So if we, if I want to go, and I'm going to go, I don't have good Wi-Fi at home, so I'm going to a campus to try to connect.
Mm-hmm.
What is that like? How close do I have to be? Is it just the parking lot? What's the plan there? How does that work?
So we're aiming to do 100 feet from the edge of the building. And it kind of depends on what part of the building you are in, like what you get to. As we've been augmenting them and adding those outside ones, it's about 100 meters. Every one of them is a little bit different depending on the campus, but we do have maps, which I'm not sure if they're up on our website because they were updating them as they've been adding, but those will be there. If they're not there now, I can make sure they're there tomorrow.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Julie.
Sure.
So with the technology in place as best we can do and to continue to deploy it, the next piece was preparing for remote learning or distance learning. And as you know, we moved forward with a partnership with Schoology. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about how that implementation has gone and where we're at with it today. So the first thing that we needed to do was train all of our teachers at a distance on a learning management system. That is not typically done, obviously. It's a different time and a different situation. And so we had a group of lead trainers, and then we trained a group of individuals that were going to then turn around the training to all teachers. And so all teachers had a similar experience in their training. We provided some on-demand series where you can watch some videos and see some help documents in addition to the training. And then we also did some live sessions as well, so that at any given day, there are so many different sessions available that are optional for teachers to help them. Sometimes it's just a question and answer with Schoology. They want help with a particular thing they're trying to put into their course. And so those training modules are ongoing, and we release new ones each week. Julie's team put together a help desk ticket for any Schoology questions that were more technical in nature, and making sure that we were able to support them through a variety of approaches. Obviously, teachers who had Google Classrooms prior to this, some of them did keep them, and that's fine. For those classrooms, when the student logs into Schoology, it tells them, hey, I'm Google Classroom, please click the following link to be redirected there. So it's still a one-stop shop for our students, where if I go into Schoology, I can see all of my courses and what's going on, even if it redirects me to a Google Classroom. And then, of course, for some of our high school students, we're still utilizing Edgenuity because those are for credits as well. And so those courses were already in progress, and we're continuing those. But real briefly, you can kind of see that there are some groups here, and then there's also the on-demand course that provides resources and help and different videos to help teachers through this time. We gave the teachers, this is an at-home learning plan, a sample day. It doesn't mean that this is their day. It means that this might be an option for their day. Two big things are virtual office hours and then what we call student support hours. So a virtual office hour is essentially a video conference time where students can drop in, ask questions, get clarification. The teacher can follow up with a student who had emailed them a question, and it's just easier to honestly explain verbally to a student. So they'll say, please make sure you're at my hangout tomorrow and I'll go over this particular question. We're recommending 2 hours a day, but not consecutively. It might be that a teacher works best for her schedule or his schedule because they've got children at home as well that they're also supporting their own children. And so maybe they do an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon. Again, giving a lot of different options for our students who are sharing devices to connect at different times rather than this is the only time I offer them. So our teachers have been incredible and very flexible with providing multiple opportunities so kids can get connected with them. Student support hours are asynchronous support options. When you give feedback on a discussion board post, when you answer an email to a student, when you call to check on them. All of those things are being done by our teachers all day long. But in general, we would say probably about 2 hours. Obviously, lesson planning still continues. Faculty meetings are still going on. They're posting all of their assignments for the coming week. This was just a sample schedule to get them started. And as Dr. Whitbeck mentioned earlier, we've already had 275 ARD meetings since spring break. And so our teachers are all attending those through video conferencing and Google Hangouts. So all of those things are still going on. Teachers are posting their grades intact, so parents are informed and know where their child is in the process and can check their grades to make sure that everything is on track. But just real basic sample schedule, just as an idea to kind of get teachers thinking about, okay, how should I structure my time at home? And it's such an individual thing that you would have to do given the circumstances of your home, right? And what you're also responsible for at home. So the basic structure of Schoology is obviously the course, right? The student needs to have the course. But there are two other really important aspects to Schoology. One are resources. Those are like your documents, and all of the slideshows you've ever made as a teacher can be in the resource kind of cabinet, right? And then there's the group. The group is a really powerful thing because I can have a group that's just all kindergarten teachers, and I can post pre-made lessons in there, and then somebody can go to that group and pick it up and copy it and drop it into their own course because they loved it so much. So it's a way to share things that you develop with other teachers. And our instructional coaches that Dr. Whitbeck mentioned earlier are spending the lion's share of their time producing these packages inside of those groups for teachers to pick up and drop into their courses, and then they can modify them as they like. The images across the top of the screen are courses in our system right now that our teachers have kind of created little thumbnail views. Again, really working on making this an engaging and an interesting place to go for students rather than the same generic thumbnail for everything. They've really personalized them and seem to be having a good time doing so. When a student logs into a course, they're all structured in pretty much the same manner. So once I'm in this course, I have my office hours that the teacher has posted, so I know when they're doing a video hangout. There's a help folder for resources for me as a student, where it teaches me how to access things in Schoology, how to submit assignments, and just the basic overview of Schoology. And then there's a folder for each week that we're online learning. Within that folder, oh, before I forget, over here on the right, it also gives you reminders of when assignments are due for you. So you know what's coming up for you as a student and if you've done it or not. So this is more of a teacher view, but the students also see the assignments coming up. So it just kind of helps them know that there's an activity to be done. And once it's done, it disappears from their feed. Once they log in and they go to one of these folders, say the April folder, April 13 through 17, it's broken down into 3 activities for the week. All of the courses for core academics are structured in 3 activities. They're typically 20 minutes in duration is the goal. Again, we know kiddos are sharing devices and we need to be as flexible as possible with allowing them time to do things on different days or perhaps work through an entire course or subject on one single day and then go to another course the next day. It just kind of depends on how the student wants to progress with the learning. Anyway, it allows for a different sharing. Our elective courses are posting fewer. For example, elementary PE and even intermediate PE post one activity a week for students to kind of, for intermediate, for example, to log what activity they did outside that week, what exercise they did, to kind of keep themselves moving and keep themselves healthy. So it looks a little differently for electives and other courses, but for core academics, it's typically structured into 3 segments for the entire week. And those are posted by Monday of each week. So you have the entire week at one time, so you can work at the work on a pace that makes the most sense for you. We've talked about this often, just looking at grace with grades, making sure that we're introducing new learning and we're teaching children, but we're also teaching them flexibility and grace. And it's more important to get it done and get it done to the point where you understand it than it is to be hard and fast with deadlines. Again, there are a lot of things going on in the home that might mean that a student didn't get to submit their assignments that day. And so just ensuring that there's that flexibility and grace to help the student acquire the content and the learning and the skill so that the grade will come after that, right? So Home Access Center, where we put out more information to our parents on how to make sure your contact and everything info is correct in Home Access Center. How do you access report card grades, progress report grades, and then coursework as it's going. As you are all aware, we've revised the grading guidelines for the 6 weeks. And as Dr. Whitbeck announced this past Friday, due to the extended closure, we have removed final exams from the spring semester, essentially treating students as though they had an exemption for final exams for the spring semester. And so all of that information is going out. We'll be posting an updated addendum to the grading guidelines to provide some additional clarification, but just really focusing on what are the key things that need to be instructed on this 6 weeks, and how do we assess that a student has achieved that in a way that makes the most sense for the circumstance that we're in right now. We also need to make sure that we're making this accessible for all students as best as we possibly can. We are working with our special education team. They're tremendous. They've done an exceptional job, and we're already up and running. So our special education teachers have been reaching out to their kids, much like all other teachers, but then giving them tips and tricks on what this looks like for them at home and what are some supports that we can put in place for them. You'll notice that our deaf education teachers have interpreters going to classes and helping the kiddos. They're attending and they're translating and they're working with the kids at a distance. Our psychological counseling services, our speech therapy, our related services for occupational therapy and physical therapy are doing teletherapy, video conferencing to help students with all of the same skills as best they possibly can in this circumstance. And so those are already happening, and the kiddos have really enjoyed seeing those individuals. And I've heard great stories from our special education team that the parents really appreciate it. And the parents not typically there during the school day to observe the OT or the PT or the speech related services. And they get to see that now and get to see how that transpires with their kid because they're helping from at the home. And it's just been a tremendous experience for all of them. And they've been very appreciative of the work of those educators and professionals. Additionally, within the courses, there are a number of different tools that we're helping our parents and our kids with. A real simple one is Kurzweil Read the Web for some of our older students. When they need to go to a website, there's an extension you can add to your browser in Chrome that will read aloud the website for you and do it with you. There's some color overlay extensions you can use on the web with dictionary and text-to-speech, some Zoom features for some visually impaired instances. And then obviously they're doing the virtual office hours. There are other things too, though. For example, Scholastic Bookflix is available to all of our younger kids. And so when I dropped into one of our pre-K special needs classes, was curious to see what was being assigned in that particular class. And Bookflix was one of the items they recommended for the student. So I'm gonna, if you'll bear with me.
Click on a category or click on the feature to begin.
And can you hear it talking to you as well? Sweet. Okay, good. So with this, the teachers already assigned the book. For our purposes, I'm just going to drop into one. For example, Animals in Nature.
Animals in Nature.
And we'll do, oh, not bugs. I don't want to see bugs. Let's go there. They have a nonfiction and they have a fiction sample. And when they click on the book, it'll read the book, and we're going to go through that here in just a second as a demonstration. But you can also notice over here on the left, there's a word match, there's a fact or fiction, which came first with sequencing. So all of the things that we would want a teacher to walk through with the student when they're reading one of these books, same thing is here that the parent can help facilitate with their young child. So the book opens up, and then you can click read along. And when you do so,
bear cubs. A bear is a mammal.
It continues to read the book. And you'll notice that there are highlighted words, and when you click on them, it gives you the definition of that word, and it lets you click on it again to hear the sound from it, to hear what the sound and the pronunciation of that word is. But this is available to all of our students, and you'll see in a lot of our little pre-K rooms, a lot of this is being assigned along with some of our younger grade rooms, like kindergarten and so forth. But it's another resource to help kids that our specialists are utilizing to support remote instruction. 504 students, a lot of those same supports apply online, but one big difference is the dyslexia service program. And so our dyslexia specialists have set up courses. And in those courses are virtual office hours and actual appointments more so with students to provide dyslexia services. They are recording videos of themselves doing the lesson and then meeting with students to talk them through it and to help work with them to check for understanding through those dyslexia services. 504 coordinators are checking on families, seeing what else that they need and how can we support. But it's impressive to see so many of the supports still continuing, just in a different manner. Additionally, outside of the academic courses, we have a number of enrichment and extension courses available to our students. Our counseling and services team is incredible, as is our library services team, and they partnered together. And for every campus, there is a course for counseling and library services. And inside of there are lessons by grade range that are appropriate for the students, one on resiliency, on time management, maybe for the higher grade level kiddos. You see right here, there's one here on rocks and feelings, and when the student completed their rock, they posted a picture, just walking them through, how are you dealing with this time? These are all optional, but we're gonna be doing a push to kind of help let parents know that this is available to them and to their students. Our high school counselors are even doing a virtual college fair this week, and hosting that where kiddos can get connected. They can work also with the Go Center on applications right now. And then just also doing those guidance lessons to help kids navigate these waters, and parents as well. So this is available, so one example. They're continuing with ebooks and accelerated reader at the younger grades. And they're checking out books. We've had over 4,600 AR tests taken since March 7th. So they're chugging along with those points. And when we are back in session, I think they're going to have a lot of tickets at that PBIS store. So it better be stocked, right? They're trying hard. They're reading. We also do an E8 course. This was developed, and it's by grade range. And so all of our pre-K to 1 students are in the same E8 course. And it has been incredible. Kelly Norgard was talking to the principals and sharing that on the first day they launched this discussion board posts for even grades 2 through 4, within, I think, 3 hours had over 200 responses from kids. It was incredible. Things that they're doing to help out their family and just sharing their stories, posting videos of them doing the de-escalation breathing and all sorts of things. So these are split up by grade range, and it's just really been incredible to see the interaction and the dialogue from all grade levels happening through the E8 courses. Again, also optional and an enrichment. And then another extension activity are GT services at the younger grades. So our advanced academics coaches began doing pullouts this year on a rotation at the campuses for our GT students. Well, they're continuing that. It is optional, and the kids couldn't be more excited. You can see our young friend there who has created a bee out of household materials and has posted his picture to turn in his GT extension activity project. And then you see another one on Angel Falls. They're doing a number of different things at different grade levels, but the kids have really enjoyed continuing those creative and challenging enrichment activities and extension activities with their instructional coaches and advanced academics. So really pleased to see the participation levels continue to be strong and to climb as the laptops have been rolled out and kids are getting connected. So a little bit about what our current level of engagement looks like. The April 3rd date was our soft opening. Check out your login. There's a new thing called Schoology, and we had a showing, but you can see a steady increase ever since then. At this point, we have 91.5% of our students who have logged into Schoology. Obviously, as Dr. Whitbeck mentioned, that doesn't mean they're necessarily completing all of their assignments, but they're trying. They're logging in. They're trying to get connected. And so the schools are working with the kiddos who haven't been represented yet to get them connected. We're hopeful that as we continue to roll out technology, we'll continue to see this number grow and rise. When you look at it by grade level, it's interesting. Every grade range is over 90% in the district, with middle school leading the way at 94%. And if you worked at a middle school, that might be surprising to you, but I think a lot of moms are watching our middle school kiddos really closely, and I couldn't be more thankful for it. So our team has been working with all of the campus principals. I know Dr. Merrill and Mrs. Goodman have been working with them to really do outreach to the kiddos who we haven't connected with yet, and to make sure we help remove any barriers we can to get them connected and get them online learning with us at this time. And our fabulous communications department reminds us of our why, and wonderful photos of our kids participating at home, and just the most amazing smiles and faces from so many kids doing something new and really enjoying the learning. I love the dry erase marker on the dining room table on the picture on the left. If you didn't catch that, she's doing a math problem. So it's a technique we use a lot in the classroom, and she has taken it home with her, which I thought was really fantastic. And that's all I had for this evening. Are there any questions that I can answer for you?
Well, I hope you will heap praise upon all the folks that are making this happen. And of course, I'm always looking at, is there any stone uncovered here? And I think you probably already know where I might be headed, and that's those 8 or 9% that are not engaged. And I guess I'm wondering, I hate to even ask this because I know what a challenge this is. But at some point, do we actually go to the homes if we're just not getting anywhere with telephone or other types of communication? What is our strategy there? Are we able to do that? Are we thinking about doing that?
We haven't really discussed home visits. I know we have people request to do home visits. I think we're going to start with a letter and a notice saying, hey, we noticed you haven't been online with us. Here's all of the information. Please contact your campus, and do that as a first step. There's some concern that, some of our families might have relocated to take care of older grandparents and those sorts of things. And so they may not be here locally to even log in or receive any of the information from us. So I think that that's part of it for some of our families. That we have had requests to do home visits, but right now we're just focusing first on getting them online, sending a notice letter, and then taking the next step if we need to take care of our kiddos.
So Dr. Gara, I wanted to thank you for the slide that you had specifically on the Grace for Grades. If you didn't notice during your presentation, the entire internet at my home went down. And because my children stay up all night and then sleep till 3 and then log on, my door comes flying open, and everybody starts coming in telling me I was taking a test, I was doing this, I was doing that. And so things go wrong. Yes. Like, things go wrong very quickly. And so I appreciate the idea of having some grace with turning in things and getting things done. And the second part is I've been getting a lot of Facebook post and questions about some parents saying, I don't understand why my 5-year-old won't sit still for 3 hours. I don't understand. They sit in school all day. And the idea of trying to put some age appropriate expectations that kindergartners do not sit still all day. Like we're lucky for 12 minutes, you know, like age appropriate things. And I didn't know if you had a slide. I saw the slides about the different times that the teachers were to spend in an organized day. Do we have anything that we've been able to send out for parents who are trying to supervise and teach at home that they're not going to get 8 hours of schoolwork out of these kids? And that's okay. Like we're not expecting that.
I did not have a slide on that. You're absolutely correct. But it's not that it hasn't necessarily come up. Our guidance lessons do kind of deal with that at the particular grade ranges, that this is a normal thing. Expect the kiddo to kind of have a little bit of energy they need to work off, so to speak. And I know TEA has posted some guidance for parents on tips and tricks for at home. And so perhaps we can help circulate that as well, because you're right. You know, what's a realistic expectation for at-home learning of your own child? I know that I've battled it, just trying to figure out what schedule works for us in our home, right? We have 3 children, and what does that schedule look like? And of course, the senior who graduates this year is up at all hours working on work and taking care of business. And the middle schooler and the intermediate schooler are struggling to find their path. And so it wouldn't hurt to have some guidance.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Barbara, okay, back when you're talking about the Home Access Center, remember the day when you were a teacher and you were trying to call home and the telephone number was wrong? The address was wrong because you sent a letter and it came back. Of course, we didn't, back then, you didn't have email quite as much as you do now. But with everything we've been doing with the distribution of the technology and everything that the teachers are doing, accessing the students, are we gathering? Okay, you know where I'm going.
Yes, ma'am.
Good telephone number, addresses, and emails that we can accomplish through this, so that next year, the principals, the teachers, everybody starts the year with less families of obscurity.
I'm going to let Julie tackle this one because she's worked so hard on this.
And
we have. So one of the things about our survey, it asks for their current residence and phone number and email address. And so that is one thing. Soila in our data services department has been full-time updating addresses and phone numbers. Since we were rolling out by household, if you no longer live there and we rolled out to someone who was already there, it kind of left you in a lurch if we didn't get your address corrected. So we've done a lot of that, and very proud of my team. So even as they come in to get the laptop, we get their proof of residency while they're there, get that over to data services, asks for their email address, that kind of thing. So yes.
Good. And think about it. I mean, at least 91.5% we've got, and hopefully everything is correct.
Yes, ma'am.
Through data services, it can be distributed campus-wide to everybody that needs it.
Yes, ma'am. So it goes directly into our eSchool program that reflects for all the districts.
Yay. This is a good opportunity.
Yes, ma'am.
And I just want to say that I was shocked when I heard that we had 90%, over 90% engaging at this point. I mean, that is something to be proud of as a district. So thank you all. Thank all the teachers and staff who are working so hard to make that happen.
And our wonderful parents for getting their kids out there and online, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I have a class that's been online since the beginning of the semester, and I have 5 students who have not logged on since before spring break.
Oh,
that's 25 or 20, well, 5 out of 20. So
it's a lot.
Maybe I should send them to you. Julie, A while back when I asked you about wireless access points,
Yes, sir.
you mentioned that $2,000 was for licensing. Who does that licensing, who are we licensing with?
That's actually our hardware and licensing. So it's not just the licensing, but that we're using Cisco Meraki. We've been a Meraki house for our access points. Gosh, I think since 2011 when we started our MIT network, which is open to all kids since then.
Right. So okay. I misunderstood you. I thought you said the access point itself was $200 and the license was $2,000.
Reverse. So the hardware,
Yeah.
the hardware and the licensing together about 2,000, and then we put in that network drop that we're having done at the building. Those are about $200 a drop.
Oh, for the drop itself. Okay.
Yes, sir.
This is fantastic. Thank y'all so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, escape out of there.
All right, thank you. And as everybody else, as other people have said, please pass along our gratitude, because I'll concur with, from what I hear from just throughout the, sorry, my Zoom did something very weird there. But what I hear from throughout the state and from other areas, there are many districts that would love to be at 90% right now. And so that's a phenomenal job that we do need to be proud of and thankful for. So, all right. And so moving on, we will have a short closed session. And so the board will now convene in closed session to discuss items as allowed by section 551.071 of the Texas Government Code. In order to go into closed session, the members of the public who are accessing this meeting via telephone or video conference will either be placed on hold or be placed in a waiting room while the board meets in closed session in accordance with the applicable laws. While the board is in closed session, members of the public may remain on the regular meeting telephone line or the video conference link that was provided to the general public while waiting for the board to reconvene the open session. Upon concluding the closed session, members of the public will be removed from hold or the waiting room and allowed to access the regular meeting video conference once again, and the open session will reconvene. No voting will take place in the closed meeting. Any action the board wishes to take as a result of discussion in closed session will take place after the board reconvenes in the open meeting. It is now 7:33. And I believe Ms. Johnson is going to put us into a breakout room. So board members, please join the breakout room.
Mr. McCall, what?
The board actually went into closed session under 55.074, which we were posted for as well. So the board now reconvened in open session at 8:24. No action was taken in closed session. And if there's no further business, then we are adjourned. Thank you. Thank you all.